Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the program. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. With over 63% of Nigerians living in poverty, the need for effective solutions has never been more pressing. As we begin the new year, it's essential that we acknowledge the daunting challenge of poverty in Nigeria. According to the World Bank, a staggering 63% of Nigerians, representing some 84 million people, live in poverty, and that's a big deal in Nigeria, especially for the Tinubu administration. Now, this alarming figure is calling for the need for effective and sustainable solutions. Last year, President Tinubu reshuffled his cabinet, appointing new ministers to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. And this move was aimed to revitalize that ministry, which had been comatose following the suspension of the previous minister. Today, I'm joined by Professor Nentawe Yewata, who is the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. He joins me live from our Abuja studio. Honorable Minister, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, how are you, and thank you for having me.
Great. The last time we spoke was 2 months ago. It was your first television interview as minister, and Nigerians right now are eager for some meaningful change and tangible results from your ministry, considering how integral it is to addressing the humanitarian challenge we are currently faced with. The World Bank's latest report indicates that over 50% of Nigeria's population live below the national poverty line. Let's begin with what you have been able to identify as the major challenges in the operation of your ministry.
Yes, thank you so very much. And, first, let me thank you for inviting us. And thank you also for giving us the opportunity to share with you what is happening in our ministry and what the President himself has directed us to do concerning the issue of poverty. And like you said, over 70 million Nigerians, almost at the border of 80 million, are estimated to be within the poverty gap. And most of them are affected either by the insurgency challenges that we are having, or some of them by conflicts. Some of them even, some of them are affected by the economic impact, the social impact of the economic reforms that are taking place by government. And finally, some of them also are affected by climate change, which has caused a lot of havoc across the country, from flooding to, in some places we have, no enough rain for crops, especially in the northern part of Nigeria. Some are having heavy rainfall, some don't even have the rainfall. And this climate change has affected a lot of the food chain that we're having in the country and has put a lot of people under poverty. Now, these numbers are about 80 million that we're estimating. If you divide it by an average of 5 people per household, then it means that we're having roughly about 80 divided by 5, which is about 15 million Nigerians are under, 15 million households in Nigeria are under poverty and are living below poverty. And that's why the president, in his wisdom, said we should target 15 million households. Multiplied by 5, you have approximately about 80 million Nigerians that are targeted by Mr. President to ensure that we give them social safety nets that can cushion the effect, like a handout, that can cushion the effect of this impact of the economic reform, impact of climate change, impact of insurgency, and impact also of, in some places, local and community conflicts. So that is what we're targeting right now to do. And for us to do that, we have 19 million people on the social register, like which was done before now. And we need to verify and capture 15 million out of these 19 million households so that we ensure that these 15 million households are given immediate respite. For now, last year, the federal government paid about 5 million Nigerians the first tranche of 25,000 naira to only 5 million people. But after the new regulation by the central bank that all payments will be done to people that have an identity, which means digital identity, which could be either be BVN or a NIN. We now opted for NIN because it's easier for us to harvest NIN for the data we have. Already data has already been captured, so, and that's what we're working on right now. As I'm talking to you, we're doing trainings in some state already. We're doing training in Kwara, we're doing in Nasarawa, we're doing in Rivers, and we're doing some few states that we've taken those states as the initial state that we'll now do training and capture them so that we can capture people within those range. And that's what we're doing so far to ensure that we capture these people. But mark you, the intervention that we're doing goes beyond just the conditional cash transfer. We have the loan schemes that we're also providing. We have other empowerment under the grant for vulnerable groups we're also providing. We're also having working with the IDPs to ensure that we provide durable solutions for them. We're also working with the youth groups across the country to ensure that we create jobs and link them to the market space and at the same time the private sector. All these are programs we're working this year to ensure that we target households, we target the vulnerable group, and we reduce the impact and the impact of all these vulnerability indices across the country.
Hopefully we have enough time to cover some of your programs and the strategies you intend to deploy in the course of the year. But you met recently with the Deputy Secretary General of the UN, and there were conversations regarding the need to strengthen collaboration to tackle the humanitarian crisis in the country. Precisely what are the updates in this regard?
You know, I must thank the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations for having time to, to come to my office. You know, she's one of the best ambassadors we have as a country, and she has interest in Nigeria in specific, and she has interest in especially working with the vulnerable group and especially people on the move to ensure that they have respite from all the challenges we're having across the country. First, we agreed with the UN, we're going to have a roundtable discussion. We'll bring all the stakeholders from the states to local government to the NGOs that are involved in humanitarian activities under one stop shop. You know, when people discuss about poverty, people look at the federal government as the only organ that can actually reduce poverty. But most of the indices that affect poverty in Nigeria, they're either at the local government or state or state governments. For example, when you take water, that's water and sanitation, it's just between local government and state that they conduct those processes. When you take education, primary education at local government level, secondary education is at the state level. When you take health, primary health at the local government, secondary health is at the state government. When you take most of the social services that we have, they are driven by state and local government. So we feel, the UN and my office feel strongly that we need to bring these stakeholders under one-stop shop, and we have a similar mandate that we can implement because our impact at the national level would not make the needed impact at the lower level if we don't organize to work along with the state and local government to ensure that this is done. So we agreed that we will do that one. Secondly, we agree also that we work durable solutions, not just giving handouts, but work out how we can exit people out of poverty. And we agreed on working together in partnership with the state government, local government, international donor agencies, and other agencies to ensure that they can mobilize for us these organs from outside, work with them in partnership to reduce poverty across the country. These were key issues that we discussed and we agreed on together with the UN Deputy Secretary General of the, when she came to our office. Indeed. Last but not the least was, we said we were going to work on the safety nets along with them. And she's prepared to get her office in Nigeria here to work with us, provide support for us, provide technical input, provide funding where possible to ensure that we get this done. And we're working along also with the World Bank to ensure that this is also done. And these are all partnerships that were very germane for us going forward, in poverty reduction process in Nigeria.
Honourable Minister, talking about funding from donor agencies, we've seen the official development assistance continue to decrease globally. thanks to economic pressures and an evolving political reality, we see many donor countries now choosing to focus on their own domestic priorities. And we had the Deputy Secretary General of the UN, highlighting that when she said that they are short of resources coming from donors into crisis as of today. What do you think that means for government intervention and your ministry in particular?
That's why the president, in his own wisdom, foreseeing this, he prioritized the social investment program in the budget of 2025. If you look at the budget of 2025, over 500 billion was provided for social investment program in the country to ensure that we provide social intervention only for the people, for the vulnerable group. And it covers the conditional cash transfer. It covers also the homegrown school feeding program. It covers the grant for the vulnerable group. And also it covers the GEEP, which is the Government Enterprise Empowerment Program. So all these programs are also, organized to ensure that the vulnerable group in Nigeria this year, we have a major intervention that will affect them directly. This, apart from the funding that we're having from the World Bank, that is supporting the vulnerable group also. So we put this fund together. It's a reasonable amount of money that from the World Bank support, with the one that we have already on ground that the budget is providing for us as a support. I'm sure that we will go do some milestone in tackling poverty and reducing the vulnerability indices across the communities in Nigeria.
There are concerns about the need to have these interventions gain a more national momentum because as we speak right now, what we see happen perhaps a response plan for states like Borno, Adamawa and Yobe. There are humanitarian challenges across the country. The Northwest, as we speak, is now an emerging area of concerns. What are you doing to comprehensively extend the reach?
Yes, the National Humanitarian Response Plan of the country is targeting the Bay State of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe as the three key states that the response plan targets. But at the same time, it highlights all the humanitarian hotspots across the country, which especially in the Northwest, where we are having a lot of humanitarian activities within those communities. Because if you look at somewhere like Zamfara State, maybe Katsina State, Katsina State has more displaced people than Yobe State and Adamawa State put together. If you look at Zamfara, Zamfara has more displaced people than Adamawa State. And the same thing with Sokoto. And so the Northwest block of states are having a lot of displaced people that when you harvest them together, they are more than the people in the Northeast. But maybe what we are looking at is that in the Northwest, when the Boko Haram came, they came destroying homes. They leveled homes completely. People don't have homes. They leveled their farms completely. People don't have farms. They burned all schools. They burned infrastructure. So the level of damage in the Northwest, in the Northeast, in terms of amenities like water, education, so all schools destroyed, all clinics destroyed, all homes destroyed, all farms destroyed, so that the means of livelihood and the support structure of a community has completely been destroyed in the Northeast. And that's why the response plan is focusing on providing durable solutions for these people and getting to return safe back to their homes and getting the IDP camps to either vanish into the communities so the host communities can now completely harness the people who are within the community and live together with them harmoniously. So these are all programs that we must do if we must actually get the people around the Bay State on their feet. Okay. And I think that's why the humanitarian response plan is targeting them for now to ensure that that is done. But the global outlook of the state is highlighted. For example, all the states that are around the riverbank of Benue and Niger, which were flooded, right from Benue to Kogi to Anambra, down to Bayelsa State. And Bayelsa had the highest of the flood along this axis and this bay. So all these are areas that we're also touching, because we're not just touching just areas that are attacked by the insurgency alone. If you go to Bauchi also, just last week we were in Bauchi to distribute food material along with ECOWAS for all the people that were affected by flood in Bauchi. We are doing the same thing in other states in the north that were affected, and in the south also. We are even in Bayelsa State. We are working with them this year to ensure we provide fishing boats, we provide fishing nets, we provide even solar refrigerators for the women, for all these people displaced, affected by flooding around those axes, so they can start a new life. And we're creating a community around them with cooperatives. So we're not just touching just the basin alone, but we're also targeting areas that are affected by the natural disasters, which comes to climate change and the rest also.
And it matters that we get to the people who actually have the need. The last time we spoke, you talked about the need to deepen the use of technology to better classify and reach the recipients of these interventions. What data is government currently using to determine the actual beneficiaries, and how do you intend to identify those to give palliatives?
Now, this is how we identify beneficiaries. First, we use the statistic from Bureau of Statistics. The Bureau of Statistics normally give the poverty rate across communities and local government. We use them to now just partially distribute the poverty across the country. With the partial distribution, we can identify poverty hotspots across the country. These poverty hotspots are where you first start capturing your data. You target those hotspots, because those hotspots will be the areas that you have the poorest of the poor most in number. For example, you can take Maitama, for example, and you're saying you're capturing data of poor people in Maitama, or in Asokoro, or in Lekki, in Lagos, and most communities that are among these people. But you have poverty hotspots in almost all states. If you go to Lagos, you have the poverty hotspot. You go to Kano, you have the poverty hotspot in those communities. So these poverty hotspots, normally we deploy our staff along with the focal person in the state, because each state has the social investment focal person. We work along with the local government social department, the social services department. The social service department, along with the focal person in the state, along with the people who are deploying from the federal, which are normally consultants that we will now hire to work with these people in partnership. They will identify these communities that from the spatial distribution, we have them. Then we now do what you call community-based targeting. In the community-based targeting, you meet and divide the community into women, into youths, and into men. And each of these groups, you now tell them what these poverties are about and what the program is about. Then the people on their own, they will define what poverty is in their community. And then they will rank people in their community from the poorest to the poor, to the least poorest. And then it is this list that you use to generate the register, basically. Now, after doing that, then you now come to validate this list by bringing technology in, and you capture the household leaders that are involved in this. And normally you capture the primary beneficiary and the secondary caregiver. The primary caregiver normally is a woman, and then the secondary caregiver is the person that the primary caregiver will recommend. In my absence, in case I'm late, or in case I'm not around, this person will now take care of the family, household on our behalf. So you have two names that you can pay through them. Now, these two, the primary and the secondary caregiver, the list is collated and brought to our office. And that's what we now have as a national social register.
So this list you're talking about, Prof, this list you're talking about, yes, because I'm sure you have also followed conversations and concerns about the social safety register's accuracy and effectiveness. Are you working with that same list? Are you revisiting it? How do you ensure that what you are working with better targets those in need? Now, we're starting with the existing list first, because that list has 19 million people, household across the country on that list,
which means you multiply by 5, on average, you're having roughly almost 90 million people on that social register. 90 million households, multiplied by 5, you have roughly about 90 million people on that social register. What that means in simple terms is that regardless of how you want to look at that register, if you validate it, you can always get, they cover most of these people who are the poorest of the poor. Now, this is a concern people like people keep on raising. Most people who are on this social register don't have telephone. Most people who are on this social register, their villages don't even have network. Most people who are on this social register, they are not on social media. Most people who are on social media, they don't come on TV. And I've challenged most of the media houses, and I've challenged more journalists. Can you come and pick these beneficiaries and go to communities and investigate? If they don't exist, then come and challenge us. But people just come on media to just say that this list, people don't exist. How will you say that people don't exist when you're on social media, when you're on TV, when you're only on radio? These guys don't have access to any of these media opportunities. They're the poorest of the poor. They don't have phone. They don't have access to anything you call social services. Most communities that we even harvest most of these names, they don't have network. These people don't even have phones. And that's why you need to create a digital wallet for them to even have money, because they can't even go to the banks. And I think these are the things that we need to note, that it's not about a social media staunch, but we said we're open. The register is open for validation by anybody who wants the list. We can give you the list as a journalist. You can go back to communities, you can verify and see if the list don't exist.
Okay. So you are targeting about 15 million households. Multiply that by 5, you're looking at a range of 80 million people. You have also mentioned that many of them do not have digital footprint, as it were. I spoke earlier with the Minister of State, and we're talking about the need to design, a strategy for automating the process, because as long as we keep giving cash to beneficiaries of this program, it is hard to account and, to achieve the transparency and accountability that this program needs to win the trust of the people.
But I think you need to also know that we've stopped the cash, the physical cash transfer long ago. The president has given a complete directive that we must transfer. And that's the reason why we're even going to harvest this digital identity of all the beneficiaries. Nobody gives cash again. Nobody gives even money, even account, you can't even transfer to anybody's account. And that's why we need to capture the name of each of the person who is going to benefit, and then capture harvest the account if they have an account. If they don't have an account, then we open a digital wallet for them, and then give them cards, and then they can access this money on POS. And that's what we're doing right now. There's nobody that's distributing cash again. The issue of cash is long gone.
So before you can access help from the ministry, you have to have a NIN, an identification number, right?
Yes. Yes.
So how do you
have a NIN or you have a BVN?
Because we talked about the fact that the poorest of the poor usually do not have these requirements. What kind of collaboration is happening between your ministry and relevant agencies to make them credible for this intervention?
Now, currently we're working with NIMSI, and the DG of NIMSI has been very, very helpful. She has been very supportive in this process. Almost every week she's with me on phone and also physically in the office, and she has given us about 1,000 devices. Currently, we are awaiting World Bank. They are giving us additional 3,000 devices, and that's what we're going to use to deploy to the field to ensure that we capture this number of people we're targeting across the communities. And the 1,000 devices we're using to do training across the states, I'm expecting the 3,000 devices that we're going to have from the World Bank. Then we deploy them across the communities, and then we harvest this NIN. Mark, you are not doing a new data capturing. All we're doing is just generating NIN number, because we have all their data already, in a database. So all we're doing is to create a NIN number for them. Number one, locate their homes, and then capture these homes, give a GPS location of the homes, so that we can actually view, because already people that we have, already, some of them already have, we have their own GPS location. But those who don't have the GPS location want to have the GPS location of every beneficiary, so that from the homes, I can view and see the kind of homes they're living in. I can see the environment they're living in. Then we can estimate whether they are poor or not. And then these are data we're actually capturing to ensure that we don't make a mistake in providing the services to the people. But mark you, outside this data I'm talking about, normally for the data we've captured earlier even, the data that we captured, there are metrics that you normally use, which is a proxy, statistical tool that you use from proxy estimate, the poverty indices of the people. And there are indices that you use to estimate these factors, and there are tools that use to also actually estimate whether the person is poor or not. And like I keep on telling you, if I come and I see your house has an air condition, you have very good seats, you have a motorcycle, there's no how you can be on the social risk regardless of how poor you are, because it simply means that you can sell that motorcycle and create a new life for yourself. You can even sell your homes and buy something lower so you can start life for yourself. So we're looking at people that are completely vulnerable and are helpless, and we need to lift them and move them out of poverty. And we support them by providing that safety net for them, and then work out a durable solution that will move them out of poverty. So these are people that we're targeting and conditional we're targeting.
It sounds like you're saying that the over 100 million Nigerians living in multidimensional poverty are not currently your priority.
Yes. You say?
It sounds like you're saying the over 100 million Nigerians living in multidimensional poverty aren't your priority, that you're prioritizing those in abject poverty, right?
Yes, I think from my office, because my office is about poverty reduction, and so we're working with the poorest of the poor. Mark you, there are people that are not completely poor. I'll give an example. When you talk about multidimensionally poor people, there are people that can afford food, but they don't have access to good education. They don't have access to good roads. They don't have access to good health system. They don't have access to, because that's the multidimensional poverty we're talking about here. So, but there are people that cannot put a meal on their table, and that's the people we're targeting. We're not targeting people that, because when it comes to health, the Minister of Health will not target providing health services to the people. When it comes to education, Minister of Education will target education to the people that don't have access to education. When it comes to water, Minister of Water Resources will target people that don't have water in their communities. But my job is to target people that cannot put food on their table.
All right. Let us talk about what is happening internally as regards the components, some of the strategies we've seen in the past. Following the suspension of the former minister, some experts have argued that our poverty alleviation program is poorly designed and executed. I'm sure you followed all of the allegations of mismanagement, corruption, inefficiency, and what have you. Which of these strategies are you retaining? We had N-Power, there's trader money, and what have you. So at some point, they were all suspended. What is the current status with these programs?
Now, let me start, let me take them one by one. I've already discussed much about the conditional cash transfer and the National Social Register, which already I've discussed much about it now. Let me take some of the programs that, first, like the N-Power. The N-Power, we have outstanding payment that we're supposed to do. We're waiting for the investigation by the anti-graft organizations, tidy up the investigation, and then we can now make payments, because we cannot access the accounts until the investigation are through. So once they are through with the investigation, then we can now make a request to Mr. President, so that we can now access the account and then make payments to the people the beneficiaries that we're owing them. That's one. Two, we need to redesign the N-Power, because the N-Power as it is now doesn't link the people to the market and also to the private sector. So we are designing all our poverty alleviation program, the poverty reduction program, to link people to the market spaces and also link them to the private sector. For example, like I was discussing last time, I said that we have programs that we're doing trainings for the youths. We have discussed with GAG Motors. We have discussed with other locally assembly cars in Nigeria. They will provide support for us in terms of manpower to do training. After the training, we'll do a 1 month intensive training for the young people. After that, we expect them to do certification. After the certification, people that will pass the exam, we expect them to participate as their regional, state, and local maintenance, automobile maintenance of their vehicles. And we're doing that in agriculture. We're doing that also in renewable energy. We're providing the same support. But apart from that, we have the government has procured over 100,000 items that can support over 100,000 young people and create markets for them in different sectors, from the automobile to agriculture to beauty and to beauty to confectionaries to different sectors. I can't finish naming here, but we have over 100,000 empowerment items that have been procured by the government. That in stores that we've kept, especially we've taken them already, and we've taken hold of all these items, and we are ready for distributing them to people nationwide. And these items will be very important to drive poverty reduction across the country. This will now get our youth more productive. We get them also to integrate into the market spaces and the private sector, and will help us also create a new economy among the young people. And that's what we are targeting in this 2025, in 2026. That's the main target of activity we'll be doing with the young people. That's concerning the Empower that we're reshaping. So we're redesigning the Empower to target the market spaces. Unlike before that people just, you're not too sure of what they're doing, you're not too sure of what the activities are doing at the back end, and you cannot verify and track the people that you're working with across the states. So this will help us to ensure that we create direct job for the people and we free them to actually have direct impact on the economy. So that's what we're doing across the nation within this year also. Then we have the JIP. The JIP is a loan scheme for farmers, for traders, and for market women. And like the farmer money, we're targeting working with the aggregators especially, so that the aggregators have their own outgrowers and no scheme. It's easier for us to deal with a smaller group than to deal with a larger group. To manage them is more difficult for us. So we feel managing aggregators will be easier for us. So we bring the aggregators, we work with them, so we give the loan to the aggregators. The aggregators will now go back to their outgrowers. The outgrowers, they cannot harvest as many outgrowers as possible. So we will monitor the outgrowers as an extension service under my office, but the aggregators will manage the fund by giving them incentives that can ensure that they produce across the state. That will help us to expand as quick as possible, reach as many farmers as possible, and then we can aggregate and monitor our production at the end of the year, if possible, so that we can increase the food on the table of Nigerians as much as we can.
All right.
And like I told you, our target is the poorest of the poor.
Honourable Minister, hold that thought. We're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll open the phone lines and also get contribution from our viewers. You mentioned that your goal is creating 2 million jobs.
Good morning, Marina Station and all the passengers. Efficient, it's comfortable.
This development will go a long way in reducing congestion and emission.
The trains are a long-term solution to Lagos traffic challenges.
This is where we take the final, decisions on policies, programs of government. I will have to ensure that, the narration of Lagos as a PLC is taken very, very seriously.
a major pedestrian bridge linking Oyibo here to Apapa Road over there.
With this overpass, we are providing what we call permanent solution.
This place is one of the most dangerous areas at the biosecurity environment.
This can go into the means and every crimes of your neighborhood.
Our goal is to remain as Africa's model megacity, to move our GDP from the 5-6 position to the 3rd position, and we believe it's achievable with all the commitments we have.
Explore the city of Lagos, where dreams are made and possibilities are endless. Amadedoja Salamadini. I live in Lagos, inside Lagos.
We are back, and our phone lines are also open for your questions and contribution for the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Professor Yewada, joins us live from our Abuja studio. Thank you for staying the course on the program. I'd like us to quickly talk about the alternatives to giving palliatives. We've touched on quite a number of them in our earlier conversation. In your conversation with the Deputy National Secretary, I think it's the Deputy General Secretary of the UN, you recall that she mentioned that we need to now start considering preventing the issues that lead to humanitarian crisis to begin with. And they say skill acquisition is no doubt more sustainable than palliatives. We've also talked about creating 2 million jobs this year. How do you intend to achieve that?
Okay. Let me just, I told you before now, on this show, I've said that humanitarian problems are not only solved by humanitarian solution. Humanitarian problems are solved by peace, providing durable solution to the people, and expanding the economy to accommodate the people who are within that vulnerable gap. And this is what we need to do. For example, I told you that we've procured over 100,000 items. And these 100,000 items are going to be for the beneficiary. I'll give an example. We even have tractors. We are creating cooperative for people. Each tractor will be owned by 10 people, which simply means that they will create a cooperative. We give them the tractor. They will use tractor in rural community to farm for themselves and the community of vulnerable people. Mark you, among them will be drivers of the tractor. Among them will be mechanics of the tractor. Among them will be farmers that can access and use that tractor. So we expect that also when you harvest these people alone, for each tractor, we are creating 10 jobs minimum. That's direct jobs. Apart from the indirect jobs, in terms of expanding farms, more people having farms, and more people now work on the farms. These are now things that we're going to do as direct jobs. Now we have vulcanizing, like vulcanizing tool. The same thing we're doing, we're going to meet with the Association of Vulcanizers in each of the states. We'll now work with them. We'll provide them with new vulcanizing tools, the old one, that's the existing vulcanizer. We'll provide them with new vulcanizing tool. Each will provide you one vulcanizing tool. They will give you additional 4 that you bring your interns who will work with you. Those interns will work with you for a period, then you will exit them, and you'll create additional 4. And those 4 will bring nothing less than 2 or 3 people to work with them. So these over 100,000 things that we have already in stock, we anticipate that we'll create nothing less than over 500,000 jobs from it, direct jobs. And these direct jobs, we anticipate that they will take care of minimal of 4 people per household. That's 4 times 500,000. It means that we can move 2 million people out of poverty by that program alone. Apart from the one we will do in agriculture, the one we will do in JEEP, the one we will do in several other programs that we're targeting. these programs will have direct impact on the life of people. So these are the kind of program we're doing to create the direct jobs. Like I told you also, we're doing the same thing with the IDPs. And IDPs, what we're doing is that we're taking over 10,000 hectares of land. We signed an MOU with NALDA already. Ministry of Agri is providing fertilizer for us. We are providing farm inputs. We will now also pay for extension services so we can give them best practices in agriculture and climate smart approach to agriculture across the states.
All right.
These are programs that we will do also. We are going to develop a complete new food value chain among the poorest of the poor to the peak. And this will create thousands of jobs in its own way also. These are directives we are doing to create direct jobs.
Minister.
Not, yes, sir.
Please hold that thought. Someone has called in from your state. Timothy has called in from Jos. Good morning. Please go ahead with your contribution. Well, Mr. Timothy, you will have to turn down the volume of your...
Good morning, sir.
Yes, please go ahead with your contribution.
Good morning, how are you, Timothy?
Good morning, sir.
Morning, Timothy.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning, we can hear
Morning,
you.
go ahead, I'm hearing you.
Go ahead with your contribution.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Talk,
Morning,
please
sir.
talk. Just go ahead and talk. Yes.
Yes, I want to ask, first of all, I would like to greet the Honorable Minister for a job well done. And I would love to ask him, because, okay, I want to talk about the conditional cash transfer. Some people were able to get one payment and some were able to get 3 payments. So I want to ask what happened along the way.
All right. Honorable Minister,
Okay.
I want to answer that.
In simple terms, this is what happened. We first paid about 5 million households. After paying the 5 million households, then the new condition by the central bank that people must have digital identity before we could make payment. So far, I want to put that available on our database. Only 1.4 million people out of the 5 million we initially paid them have digital identity. So we paid those people that have digital identity their first and second and third tranche in some cases. So they have 3 payments being made for them. But because these other people don't have digital identity, we have to step them down until we capture the digital identity before we pay them. Once we capture the identity, we pay them.
So that's approximately 3.6 million people. What's the time frame of getting them on board?
Yes. Yes.
What's the
but we're targeting 50 million.
No.
We're targeting 50 million, not
5 million. Out of the 5 million you mentioned that you started paying, and then the CBN mentioned that you need to get them registered digitally, that leaves us with about 3.6 million. I'm wondering how long do you foresee it would take to get them to have their names so they can get their payment as well?
Now, from our target is that by April ending we should be able to tidy up this first set, because we need to do training and deployment. That's what's taking us time. But by April, we should be able to tidy up that and make payment for this first set of people, category of people. Then we're targeting that by July, August, we should be able to capture up to 10 million and make payment. Then we're targeting that by October, we should be able to target 50 million people. So these are the work plans we're having for now, that we're working on to ensure that we work and get these people off our necks as quick as possible. Right. In short, this is even a lazy timeline, but we're working to ensure that we even draw back the timeline and move faster than what we've actually give ourselves.
Let's take Michael's call from Ado Ekiti. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
Michael, how are you?
My name is Michael from Ado Ekiti. I want to greet Honorable Minister. Hello?
Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me, please?
Thank you, Michael. I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
Yes, sir. I want to ask, what is going on as regards to homegrown school feeding program? Honorable Minister.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, Michael from Ado Ekiti. The homegrown school feeding program was suspended for several reasons. The president felt there was no transparency and there's no accountability in the process, that the list of schools are generated by state governments and also by in some places after verification, the schools never existed. In some places after verification, the names of the number of people that were being fed was less than the number of people that were presented. So the president asked that a verification be done. And that's so what we did, instead of just doing a verification, we asked the World Bank, who introduced the program, they should select the top 10 best countries in the world for us who are having this school feeding program that are working. And they should be third world countries. And they selected 10. We're not dropping that number to 5. So we said we want to take the top 3 among these countries. We'll do a video interaction with them so that we can select, we can know what they're doing right that we're not doing in Nigeria. Like Kenya has a success, though they have a working school feeding program. Ghana has a working school feeding program. Morocco has a working school feeding program. Tunisia has a working, Turkey the same thing, India the same thing. So what are they doing right that we're doing wrong? So, and that's what we want to work with them to ensure that we go to at least about 3 different countries. We said one should be 2, maybe 2 Africa. Then we take 1 Asia, and then we will take 1 around the American axis, and then we can then take all the 4, walk and look through what they have done right, and then demonstrate what they've done within the country. So that's what we're working on right now.
That sounds like
but we implement.
Honorable Senator, that sounds like a long process. Can these students, do you foresee...
Not long process.
Do you foresee
if I tell you that we are going to the countries...
Yes.
Within a week, you can do all these activities.
Do you foresee the school feeding program returning this year?
Yes.
All right.
Definitely. It's already in the budget.
Ahmed
if you check the budget, it's already in the budget.
From Mina in Niger State. Good morning, Ahmed. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Ahmed.
All right, so we're calling. Please go ahead, Ahmed.
Ado from
your line.
Yeah, I wanted to greet the Honorable Minister. He's doing a great job. I'm one of the beneficiaries of the Real Hope cash transfer. Last month, they paid us and I used the money to start my little business of POS.
Wow, sounds good.
Great.
Thank you, Ahmed, for your contribution.
I think you can hear testimonies. Like I told you, most of the people don't have access. Maybe he's very lucky to be among the few parents, the beneficiaries, that have access to phone. Most beneficiaries don't have access to telephones. They are in rural communities. These are among, because we have the urban poor and the rural poor. And we have more rural poor than the urban poor. The urban poor are very poor. He's among the urban poor who have access to telephone. Most rural poor don't have access to telephone.
I hear you, Professor. So there's no doubt about what is being done. The question is whether we're doing enough. The National Poverty Reduction with Growth Strategy, for instance, aims to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty within a decade. So your ministry, plans to employ 2 million people this year. Do you think that we're working at a fast pace to be able to achieve this goal in a decade?
People look at this poverty reduction from my ministry alone. The National Director of Employment are doing their bit. Minister of Agri are doing their bit. Several ministers are doing a lot of work. NCC, from the Communication Ministry are doing their bit in terms of ICT development, deployment. If you deploy internet services, you create bandwidth across the community, you increase penetration of internet services within communities, you are creating direct jobs within the communities. So the jobs are not just based in my ministry alone. So I think try to warehouse all the poverty reduction indices around my ministry is maybe a misnomer a little bit, because we have to look at several agencies that are involved in job creation in the state. When you look at the money that was warehoused in power, for example, a lot of money was voted into power in this very budget. And the reason is because when you address the power issue, power will create direct jobs in billions, in hundreds of millions around communities, and you empower people in their hundreds. So my ministry alone cannot address all the issues. But mark you also, there are also direct jobs that will be created. Construction will not generate their jobs. The schools the school program we're doing, deployment, building of classrooms under UBEC is going to create jobs. Several jobs will be created in the construction industry, in the agricultural industry, and several other industries that we're doing. Mark, you look at what they budgeted for agriculture. It means that more production of fertilizer across the country. The supply chain will actually of tractors, other equipment, and all this value chain, you all increased in their number. And all this will create jobs across the country.
Yes. We're running out of time now, but I want you to address concerns of some interest groups who have asked whether our poverty reduction program, whether or not our approach to poverty reduction is inclusive, especially when you consider, marginalized groups like persons with disabilities and those in rural area. Quickly, in a minute, how do you address that?
Yeah, the people with disability are under my ministry, and we are mainstreaming them in all these activities we are doing. They're all mainstream in the poverty alleviation program. From the cash transfer, we are giving a priority. From the job we're creating, we're giving a priority. From even the empowerment we're doing, IDPs and the rest, we're all giving this group of people, priority. But outside that, we have an agency that has an executive secretary, and there's even some budget for him also to implement direct programs that affect them. And I think we're working with him to ensure that all the people with disability are also carried along with all the activities we're doing to ensure that they are also targeted. So we have a target-based activities that is just based targeting the people with disability and mainstreaming them onto all activities. Indeed. And so I think they are not left behind in what we're doing right away.
Thank you so much for talking to us on the program this morning, Honorable Minister.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on this program.
We're going to continue this conversation and have it more consistent so that we can carry the public.
I'm always available. And especially when we start our programs, when we start our program, I'll get you on.
Thank you so much. Professor Netawe Iwada is the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. Thank you for joining us on the program this morning. That's our show. Thank you for joining us. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.